Please stop what you're doing right now and listen. This is one of those updates that seems straightforward until you realize just how much misinformation is swirling around it. If you're a retiree, a senior, a veteran, someone with a disability, or anyone whose budget depends on a consistent check every month, this directly concerns you. And if you're helping a parent or grandparent who counts on Social Security, SSI, disability, VA, or pension funds, you absolutely need to hear this through to the end. Our purpose isn't to frighten anyone, it's to bring clarity. Right now, anxiety is skyrocketing because the same bold claim is echoing everywhere, that brand new financial aid is launching on January 17th. Some articles suggest every person is getting a fresh payment. Certain videos imply all older adults are guaranteed this money. Other reports toss around huge figures without any source. And that, right there, is how panic gets manufactured: swift, noisy, and full of holes. So let's handle this properly, with a level head, walking through it piece by piece in simple language. You're getting a factual rundown of what January 17th really references, what kinds of disbursements are actually being discussed for early 2026, which populations are typically considered for focused aid, why you won't see identical deposits hitting on the same date, and what signs you should look for in your own bank statement or postal mail. Before we go further, a quick note. If you value straightforward, calm breakdowns like this one, tap that subscribe button so you're covered for future updates. When news like this develops, the last thing you want is to be hit by one wild story after another. Being informed is your best shield. Now, here's the core reason this subject is exploding. Living expenses have been increasing relentlessly, and for countless families on a set income, it's become unsustainable. Food prices are up, housing costs are up, energy bills keep climbing. Healthcare, medicines, co-pays, and daily necessities seem to consume more of your budget each passing month. Even minor expenses accumulate. Getting around, phone plans, home repairs, heating in the colder months, and surprise medical bills that arrive out of nowhere. For older adults and retired individuals, that strain is unique because you can't simply pick up extra hours to make ends meet. When what you earn each month doesn't change, inflation can feel like a constant tightening vice. That's why so many are monitoring any talk of assistance so intently, not from a place of want, but of genuine need. And when financial stress builds, elected officials and government departments face louder calls to act, particularly for the elderly and those with disabilities. That's the context. That's why discussions about specific aid keep surfacing. Here is the first critical distinction, and this is where most false information originates. When folks mention stimulus payments currently, they are typically not referring to those widespread pandemic-era checks from the past. Those were sweeping initiatives, large in scale, a single approach for all. What's being debated in early 2026 isn't the same. It's more selective. That means the assistance might not officially be called a stimulus. It could appear as a single relief deposit, a special support payment for high costs, a rebate from your state, an emergency aid add-on, or a federal increase linked to current benefits. In short, funds can still come as a direct payment or a financial lift, but the framework is more limited and precise. So if you've been hunting for one brand new stimulus law covering the entire population, you might not locate it, because a lot of the present aid conversation revolves around tailored programs, not general ones. Now, let's address the date everyone is citing: January 17th. What does it genuinely signify? Here is the correct way to think about it. January 17th is in discussions because it coincides with the start of a new processing and distribution phase for particular aid initiatives that impact specific categories of qualifying people. It is not a promise that every senior citizen gets money on that precise date. It is not a blanket payday for each person collecting Social Security. It's more accurately viewed as a kickoff point in a staggered timetable for defined groups. Some payments might start to materialize for eligible individuals around that time frame, and further disbursements could follow in the subsequent days and weeks. That's why you constantly hear, starting January 17th, rather than everyone paid on January 17th. Sadly, online content frequently blurs that line and transforms it into a sure thing. And once that occurs, people begin planning their finances around a hearsay. That's where problems start. To truly grasp why individuals see different dates, you must distinguish between the various benefit categories because Social Security retirement, SSI, SSDI, and VA payments do not all follow the same calendar, and relief programs don't always link up in identical fashion. Let's begin with Social Security retirement. If you get Social Security retirement, your usual monthly payment routine doesn't abruptly shift because of January 17th. Standard Social Security retirement payments keep to the set schedule, which is generally linked to your date of birth. That monthly mechanism is reliable. However, some may notice an extra deposit or an adjustment that is distinct from the normal payment. These additional amounts, when they happen, can be related to targeted cost of living aid efforts or state-run programs that work in tandem with federal frameworks. The crucial detail is that these are not the same for each person, and they don't always land on the identical day as your regular Social Security deposit. In numerous instances, these supplementary deposits are handled in mid-January. That mid-month processing is a primary reason January 17th repeatedly appears in talks. It often surfaces in timelines because it matches a new wave of distributions or processing periods for particular initiatives. Now let's discuss SSI Supplemental Security Income. SSI operates on its own beat, and January is invariably a critical month for SSI recipients. Normally, SSI goes out right at the start of the month, but when special modifications, extra help, or urgent support programs get the green light, those funds are frequently sent independently. They might not be combined with your standard SSI payment. This explains why some SSI recipients could see additional support appear after the month's midpoint. If a program is authorized with a separate processing cycle, it can result in an extra deposit showing up later than the first of the month SSI payment. That variation in timing is standard for supplementary aid, but it often creates misunderstanding because people anticipate everything arriving at once. Next, SSDI, Social Security Disability Insurance. SSDI benefits are usually paid on a timetable similar to Social Security retirement, often determined by birth date. If you receive SSDI, your regular payment schedule stays the same. But like retirement benefits, certain relief payments can be processed in conjunction with your regular benefit or soon after, depending on eligibility factors and the program's setup. Here's the vital point again. Eligibility isn't instant just because you get SSDI. Aid is often targeted, meaning it may hinge on income brackets, program stipulations, and other qualifying conditions. But when an SSDI recipient does qualify, the payment can be handled through existing channels, which frequently means no additional forms to fill out. Now let's cover VA benefits. VA payments function through a system separate from Social Security. That's significant, but when relief programs are approved at federal or state levels, some coordination can happen, especially when aid is meant to support at-risk groups like older veterans, disabled veterans, or surviving spouses. Because VA has its own architecture, VA-related relief may not arrive on the same days as Social Security deposits. Some veterans may notice changes or credits reflected during January depending on their benefit classification and where they live. Again, this is one reason people can hear about the same January aid discussion and still encounter different timing. So the essential takeaway up to this point is straightforward and incredibly important. January 17th is not a universal payday. It is a reference point connected to certain programs, certain groups, and rolling processing calendars. Now here comes one of the most frequent questions seniors pose, and it's a brilliant one. Do you need to take any action? In many scenarios, if you already receive benefits through Social Security, SSI, SSDI, or the VA, and your details are current, the procedure is automatic. That means no special application, no sign-up sheet, no phone call needed, and definitely no charges. That's by design. Agencies aim to lower stress, minimize paperwork, and curb fraud chances. But there is one practical item that can cause holdups even when someone is eligible: your deposit and contact details. If you recently changed banks, shut down an account, switched from paper checks to direct deposit, updated your mailing address, or had any interruption in your payment setup, a delay can occur. That doesn't mean you're not qualified. It simply means the system requires correct information to deliver funds without a hitch. This is why keeping your payment details current is so vital. And during times when extra payments are being talked about, it becomes even more critical because supplemental deposits can be processed separately from your normal check. If your direct deposit information is old, the system might struggle to send the extra deposit promptly. Now let's tackle a quiet fear many seniors hold. If you get additional money, will it be considered income and shrink your monthly benefits? For Social Security retirement benefits, one-time relief payments generally do not count as earned income for Social Security purposes. That means they usually don't reduce your standard monthly Social Security check. For SSDI recipients, the same general principle often applies. One-time relief deposits typically aren't treated as earned wages that would lower your base benefit because they aren't wages. For SSI recipients, regulations can be more intricate because SSI is income-based and responsive to changes. But many relief payments are structured to be excluded from SSI income calculations for a specific period. That exclusion window is designed to give recipients time to use the money for essentials without instantly losing benefits. The exact handling can depend on the specific program, but the guiding idea is that relief should assist, not penalize. Now let's talk taxes. Generally, stimulus-style relief payments haven't been considered taxable income at the federal level. That has been the trend with past relief efforts, and current directions often follow that path. But here's practical advice you should always heed. Keep records regardless. It's always prudent to have documentation of any extra payment you receive. Bank statements, deposit descriptions, letters, or notices, especially if you file taxes or have help with tax preparation. At this stage, you might be wondering, all right, but what's actually verified and what's just talk? This is the center of the matter. There's a difference between targeted payments linked to specific programs and a universal check promised to all. Not every headline you see online is describing the same thing. Some posts blend state rebates, cost of living adjustments, standard benefit schedules, and unrelated proposals, then present it as one huge guaranteed payout. That isn't how this operates. Payments beginning around January 17th are tied to particular programs and eligibility criteria. They are not a universal check for every senior in every state, knowing that guards you against unrealistic hopes and protects you from fraud. Now, let's look closer at eligibility and what seniors should practically anticipate. Eligibility is usually shaped by three primary elements: the kind of benefit you receive, your income level, and sometimes your household circumstances or where you live. For Social Security retirement recipients, targeted relief programs often concentrate on people below specific income ceilings. The logic is simple. The aim is to focus support on households that depend heavily on monthly benefits and have little extra income. That's how targeted programs steer aid toward the most financially at risk. SSI recipients are commonly prioritized because SSI is designed for people with very limited income and resources. If you get SSI, you may be included in relief efforts more frequently than other groups. When extra support is approved, it may arrive as a separate deposit or a supplement after your regular SSI payment. The goal is to help with essentials: food, rent, utilities, transport, and medical needs that can't be postponed. SSDI recipients may qualify as well, especially those who've watched their buying power decline due to rising prices. Disability income is fixed for many, and that fixed income can feel more strained each year as costs go up. Relief payments, when applicable, may be processed through the same systems used for Social Security retirement benefits. That's why eligible recipients often don't need to submit a new application. Veterans are another group regularly included in targeted relief conversations, but eligibility can depend on the VA benefit type and whether the recipient also meets income-based standards. Older veterans, disabled veterans, and surviving spouses may be included more often in relief efforts, but timing can vary because VA operates differently and because some relief involves state-level coordination. Now, let's discuss amounts, because this is where letdown can strike if expectations are blown up by sensational headlines. These payments are generally conceived as temporary support. They aren't meant to replace monthly income. They aren't designed to solve long-term money challenges single-handedly. They are a relief measure, a boost to help people manage higher costs. The amount can differ widely depending on the program, income level, location, and eligibility tier. Some recipients may see several $100s. Others may see smaller supplemental deposits. Sometimes assistance comes in a form that doesn't resemble a traditional check, like a rebate credit or a state-run deposit. Even lesser amounts can make a difference. For someone on a fixed income, a modest deposit can mean groceries for a week, a utility bill paid on time, a prescription refilled without delay, or travel costs covered for doctor visits. Another major reason timing can differ is that some relief is managed at the state level, even when federal systems are involved. This is key. If a program is state administered, that can lead to variations between states, different amounts, different timelines, different processing speeds. That's why you might hear about payments starting on a certain date while deposits roll out gradually, depending on administrative handling. So, what should you do during this period? First, watch your bank account closely, but do so with proper expectations. If you have direct deposit, look for deposits that might not match the exact label of your normal benefit payment. Relief payments may show up with a different description, which can be confusing. Some recipients see an unfamiliar deposit label and think it's an error. Others assume it's a scam. In truth, a legitimate relief deposit can look different from your normal monthly Social Security or SSI description. If you get paper checks, remember that mail can take longer, especially in winter. Weather delays, transport issues, and local mail volume can affect delivery speed. Second, and this part is super important, guard yourself against scams. Whenever people expect money, scammers appear. They know seniors are checking their accounts. They know people are concerned, and they use that emotion to manipulate. Here's the rule that must stay fixed in your mind. Real agencies do not call, text, or email you asking for your Social Security number, your bank account number, your password, or money to release a payment. No legitimate relief payment requires you to pay a fee to get it. No legitimate program needs you to confirm your information through a random link sent in a text, and no legitimate agency will threaten you with immediate loss of benefits unless you act right this second. If anyone claims they can accelerate your payment, guarantee your eligibility, or unlock your deposit in exchange for information, that's a giant warning sign. The safest method is to rely on official communications you already receive and official channels you trust. Third, keep basic records. Even if a relief payment isn't taxable and doesn't count as earned income, documentation shields you. A bank statement, a note of the date, and the deposit label can help if you ever need to clarify what a payment was. This can be especially useful for SSI recipients since SSI has income-based rules and sometimes requires verification in certain situations. Another common question is how extra money might impact other aid programs, housing support, food assistance, medical help, or other state services. Many one-time relief payments are excluded from income calculations for a certain period to prevent people from being penalized for receiving temporary help. That policy exists because relief is supposed to stabilize households, not trigger benefit reductions. However, rules can vary by program and by state. That's another reason keeping documentation is smart. Now let's talk about practical planning. If an extra payment arrives, what should you do with it? There's no single right answer, but the most common priorities for seniors are the ones that protect stability. Catching up on overdue bills, paying utilities, refilling prescriptions, scheduling medical care that was put off, fixing something essential at home, covering transportation costs, buying groceries, or building a small emergency buffer so the next unexpected expense doesn't force a crisis. Even a modest deposit can lower stress when it's used with purpose. As we move through January, more details can emerge and adjustments can be announced. That doesn't mean every rumor is accurate. It means things can change. The key is staying informed without becoming overloaded. Be wary of headlines that sound like guarantees. Be wary of claims that toss out enormous dollar figures without explaining program specifics. Reliable information tends to be calm, detailed, and steady, not loud and exaggerated. Now, let's tie everything together as clearly as possible. The January 17th date is linked to a new phase of scheduled processing and distribution for certain relief programs affecting certain eligible groups. It does not mean every senior, retiree, or beneficiary receives a universal payment on that exact day. Payments, when they apply, can begin around that window and roll out over the following days and weeks. If you get Social Security retirement benefits, your regular payment schedule stays based on the normal monthly calendar, often tied to your birth date. Some eligible recipients may see separate deposits or adjustments connected to targeted relief efforts or state-run programs coordinated with federal systems, often processed in mid-January. If you receive SSI, your regular payment usually comes at the month's start, but additional supplemental support, when approved, may appear separately and can start showing up after the middle middle of the month, depending on processing timelines. If you receive SSDI, your regular schedule remains unchanged. And if you qualify under targeted relief criteria, extra deposits may be processed alongside or shortly after your normal benefit through existing channels. If you receive VA benefits, your payment system is separate, but coordination can happen for certain relief measures. Some veterans, especially those who are elderly, disabled, or in specific income-based categories, may see additional payments or credits reflected during January, depending on program rules and state of residence. For many, payments are automatic if you already receive benefits and your information is up to date. That means no separate application and no need to reply to calls or messages asking for personal data. The biggest practical step you can take is making sure your direct deposit and contact information are accurate to prevent delays. Relief payments are often structured so they don't reduce Social Security benefits. For SSI recipients, special rules apply, but many relief payments are excluded from income calculations for a period. Most stimulus-style relief deposits haven't been treated as taxable income at the federal level, but keeping records is still wise. And above all, protect yourself from scams, because scammers target seniors aggressively during times like these. If anyone contacts you demanding personal information or money to release a payment, treat it as a red flag and don't engage. Here's something that isn't said often enough: worry is costly. When people are scared, they make hasty choices. They click links they shouldn't. They answer calls they should ignore. They share information they'd never share on a calm day. That's why the strongest protection you possess is clarity. So if you're anxious about January 17th, approach it calmly. Don't assume a viral post is a guarantee. Don't plan your budget based on a rumor. Stay alert, monitor your deposits with realistic expectations, and keep your information updated. If a relief payment applies to you, it will typically arrive automatically through the system you already use. And if it doesn't apply to you, you haven't lost anything by staying calm and protected. If this breakdown helped you feel more settled, please subscribe to my channel so you can stay updated without getting pulled into confusion. And if you know someone who is stressed, overwhelmed, or vulnerable to scams, share this information with them. One clear explanation can prevent a lot of damage. The most important lesson is simple. Payments beginning around January 17th can be real for certain eligible recipients, but they are targeted, not universal. Knowing that helps you avoid disappointment, avoid scams, and avoid needless stress. Keep an eye on your account, keep your records, stay cautious with calls and messages, focus on verified information. That's how you guard your financial security, one steady step at a time. Thank you for listening, and take good care of yourself as January unfolds.